The story of BRICS does not begin in a grand hall filled with world leaders. It actually starts in a 2001 research paper from an economist at Goldman Sachs, Jim O'Neill. He wasn't creating a political alliance. He was identifying a new economic trend. He saw four large, fast-growing developing countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China. He grouped them together under the acronym BRIC. He said they'd become major global players. Their combined weight would shift economic power away from Western nations. The leaders of these four nations saw something more in the BRIC concept. They saw a shared identity and common purpose, large populations, abundant natural resources. They wanted a bigger voice against institutions born after World War II. The IMF, the World Bank. These institutions were largely controlled by the United States and its Western allies. This shared dissatisfaction became the glue that would bind them together. The 2009 summit in Russia was a landmark event. It officially launched BRIC as a formal diplomatic grouping. The leaders of Brazil, Russia, India, and China issued a joint statement. They called for a more democratic and just multipolar world order. This was a direct challenge to the unipolar moment that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union, a period dominated by the United States. The summit's agenda was clear: increase their influence in global financial institutions and create new frameworks for cooperation among themselves. A significant development came just 1 year later. In 2010, the group decided to expand. South Africa, an influential and developing economy on the African continent, was invited to join. With its inclusion, the group was renamed BRICS. South Africa's entry was symbolic and strategic. It brought in a key African nation, making the bloc a more globally representative group. One of the most important achievements was the creation of the New Development Bank, or NDB, in 2014. The NDB was conceived as an alternative to the World Bank and the IMF. It was designed to fund infrastructure and sustainable development projects in BRICS and other emerging economies. It showed that BRICS was serious about building its own institutions, free from the conditions and political influence often associated with Western-led lenders. The world of 2023 looked very different from the world of 2001. Dozens of countries had expressed interest in joining the group, seeing it as a platform to amplify their own voices. At their 15th summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, the BRICS leaders made a historic decision. They announced a massive expansion: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. The expansion was a transformative moment, giving birth to what is now known as BRICS Plus. The new members were chosen for strategic reasons. Egypt controls the Suez Canal, a vital artery of global trade. Ethiopia is a populous and fast-growing African nation, home to the African Union's headquarters. The inclusion of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran brought three major energy producers into the fold. This dramatically increased the group's control over global energy markets. The expansion was a calculated move to enhance the bloc's economic weight, geographic reach, and political influence. It is now a diverse coalition of nations with varying political systems and economic models, united by a common desire for a more multipolar world. To understand the scale of the shift underway, we must compare the new BRICS Plus with the old Guard, the Group of Seven, or the G7. United States, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom. For decades, this group has set the agenda for the global economy. The G7 represents about 1/10 of the world's population. In contrast, the expanded BRICS Plus group is home to nearly half of all people on Earth, representing approximately 3.7 billion people. This demographic advantage translates into significant economic muscle. When measured by purchasing power parity, or PPP, which adjusts for differences in the cost of living, the BRICS Plus bloc has already surpassed the G7 in its share of global GDP. As of today, BRICS Plus accounts for roughly 36% of the world's economy in PPP terms, while the G7's share has fallen to around 30%. It means that in terms of the real volume of goods and services produced, the BRICS Plus countries collectively outproduce the traditional Western powers. The group is, honestly, a commodity superpower. BRICS Plus now controls over 40% of the world's crude oil production. This gives the bloc immense leverage over global energy prices and security. The G7 nations, on the other hand, are largely consumers of these resources, making them dependent on stable supply chains that increasingly originate in BRICS Plus countries. The dynamic is no longer one-sided. It is a tale of two giants, one established but facing relative decline, the other rising and rapidly accumulating economic and strategic weight. The primary ambition of the BRICS Plus bloc is to reform the architecture of the global economy. A central part of this agenda is the push for de-dollarization. BRICS Plus members argue that the dollar's dominance gives the United States an exorbitant privilege, allowing it to exert political pressure through sanctions. To counter this, they are actively promoting the use of their own national currencies and trade between member countries. For example, India and the UAE have already begun settling some oil trades in rupees instead of dollars. This push is not just rhetorical, it's being backed by institutional development. There is also ongoing discussion within BRICS Plus about creating a new common reserve currency or a shared payment system. Such a system would be a direct alternative to the SWIFT messaging network, which is Western-dominated and has been used to exclude countries like Russia. Beyond finance, BRICS Plus aims to create a more inclusive model of globalization. Its members often champion the principles of national sovereignty and non-interference, which appeals to many developing nations wary of political conditions. The bloc presents itself as a partnership of equals, offering a different path to development. So, is BRICS Plus poised to become the new global superpower? The answer is, well, complex. The group's internal diversity is both a strength and a weakness. It includes democracies like Brazil and India, and authoritarian states like China and Russia. It also includes regional rivals like Iran and Saudi Arabia. However, their shared desire to counterbalance the West is a powerful unifying force. The rise of BRICS Plus does not necessarily mean the collapse of the West, but it undeniably marks the end of an era of uncontested Western dominance and the dawn of a truly multipolar world order.